Jared's looking very
Get that real laugh.
professorial today with that bow tie. Wow, this group's so well trained. Everyone sits down and it's quiet.
Must be my influence.
Not so much, but well, good morning, everyone. Let me welcome you and call the meeting to order. We are really excited this morning. We've got a full house. We've got a number of new board members, and I do in just a minute want to go around and make some quick introductions. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we do that. As a reminder to everyone, of course, as a state agency, which we are, our meetings are public, so they have to be broadcast over the internet per state law. So just keep that in mind. There are times where we have certain items, legal or contractual or personnel, where we go into executive session. We do not have any executive session items today, so but we do have a full agenda. One reminder to both our sitting members and our new members, if you're not familiar with it, make sure that you filled out your statement of economic interest form with the Ethics Commission. The new members should have done a new one, and we've got some that just came on that I think we've got a few who still have not finished theirs, but as a friendly reminder, March 30th at noon is the deadline, and that's not March 31st. For some reason, it's March 30th at noon, and you don't want to miss that because they will fine you and come after you, but just make sure you fill that form out. And if you have any questions on that, Ashley can help you with that particular form to get it done. She's not here today, but I do want to recognize one of our retiring board members, Dr. Harriet Jaworski, who has been a terrific member of this board, very helpful to me and her experience in school administration and as a teacher for many, many years has been really helpful on the board. So I do want to recognize her service as well. And with that, I'm going to ask the new members that are here today to introduce themselves, and then we'll go around the table with the rest of us so everyone gets a chance to at least know something about everyone else. So Fallon Hogan is one of our new members here in Greenville. Fallon, you want to just introduce yourself or say anything you want to say or not say?
Sure. Hi, I'm Fallon Hogan. I've been in Greenville for 20 years. Columbia is home to me. I'm a commercial broker with Pintail. So office, I get to walk by the school quite often, and I'm just really proud of Greenville and what we've got going on, and just excited to serve alongside each of you.
Great. And then Ray Felder is one of our new members.
I'm from Fort Mill, South Carolina. My career was always in the insurance industry. I retired and thought I would just spend all my retirement with grandchildren. That ended abruptly when I got dragged into the General Assembly. I served 12 years in the General Assembly, retired from that in 24, and I'm just super excited. I served on the K-12 and chaired that committee with the House Education and Public Works. So I got to learn a lot about education that I had been so sheltered from, being the part of the state I come from. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about the Governor's School for the Arts and what all happens here. And of course, anything in Greenville just keeps getting bigger and better. If you don't believe me, try to drive here. My goodness. We didn't think they'd ever finish work on 85. Well, now there's no construction, but my goodness, there's 3 times the cars. So the secret is out.
That little stretch can be challenging for sure. Oh. Well, welcome. And then we have Catherine Pinillos as another one of our new board members from Walterboro.
Yes, hi, I'm Catherine. I'm from Walterboro. I started my career at Francis Marion University and worked there for almost a decade after I graduated in the communications department, and then transitioned into being a visual arts teacher. So I'm an artist at heart, and I was very excited to be asked to serve, and I'm excited to learn more about the school and about the beautiful things that happen here.
Wonderful. I did not go to Francis Marion, but I am from Florence originally, and Fred Carter is a good friend, so they've done a lot of great things over there at Francis Marion. So, we're really thrilled. We've got a variety of experience with our new board members and some of our recent board members and some of us who've been around here a good while. I do also want to congratulate Mr. Welling on being reappointed in an at-large seat. And I should thank the governor for reappointing me through 2030, so you're going to have to deal with me longer, Cedric. Sorry about that. But let's, yeah, what can I say, LaShawn? Let's start on this side. If you just want to introduce, so for those board members maybe that you have not met, our new members, just tell them who you are.
I'm Irv Welling. I live in Greenville. I've been on the board since before the school and have seen all this happen over time and go back a long ways. I'm looking at Matthew and he and I go back. He was in a, what we call that program through the chamber? It was
You're
a
test my memory. My institutional knowledge, as Dr. Adler
it
calls
was
it.
a mentor type of program.
Yes.
Pace setters, thank you, yeah. And, but I've seen all this stuff happen. I was involved in helping the school get off the ground from a legislative standpoint. Got a lot of stories to tell there. But anyway, I'm very passionate about the school, and I hope that each of you that are coming in just now will become just as passionate as I am. So, and it'll be one of the best things that ever happened to you, to see these kids, so.
Thanks, Sarah. Sarah?
I'm Sarah Cathcart. I'm from Hickory Tavern, South Carolina. I'm down in Lawrence County, about 45 minutes away. We live our life in Greenville pretty much. My daughter was an alumna here, and I went in 1989 to the summer program years ago. So that's sort of my connection to the school, and it's fun to be back. I've been on the board, I guess, 2.5, 3 years, I think.
Kim Lee, live in Rock Hill, South Carolina, but I'm a Greer native. Virginia Aldrich was my principal, and Fane and I shared that at the Fine Arts Center. Our girls, not our boys, came to the Governor's School, one when it was still at Furman, one residential here in dance. Her age is 38, so it was in the newer years. And degrees in music, and worked in the other early years teaching, and then did the 4 children stayed put because my husband traveled internationally, and I ran our family businesses that we had on the side. Still constantly performing in the arts, and a lot of administrative with Arts Council and Rock Hill. Then we sold everything. I hated retirement in 2006. Went back. We were just talking, Ray and I, and my husband and Ray know each other, and went back to teaching. Got a master's in something a little different, and taught in Fort Mill music for 12 years. Been retired now for the 3rd time. It's 7 years in retirement now. It will stick. And the best thing is still sing a lot, choral society, and a lot of connection with Winthrop Music School. But the best is we're expecting our 6th grandchild in May.
Congratulations.
So glad to be here because I get to see the young ballerinas who are professionals now at that age, the 38, through the 40s, and know that, most of their professional dancing is over. The teaching may have happened, but they are in such fascinating professional careers, and they support the arts. That's what I'm enjoying right now, seeing what happens to alumni. I'm finished.
That's a hard act to follow now, LaShawn.
Well, some of us are excited about it. Oh, and I got to come to the concert last night. It was so good.
Extra credit for that.
Good morning. My name is LaShawn Goodwin. I'm from Greenwood, South Carolina. I graduated in communications and fine arts from Southern University. I attended Louisiana State University. I was an Army veteran officer in the Signal Corps and Chemical Company. I met Miss Virginia Aldrich back in the 80s when I was doing community theater, and just so happy to still be a part of this great organization. I think I'm right after Irv now. I just got reappointed by Governor Masters. I've been here approximately about 11 years. as an at-large member to Congressman Jeff Duncan and Governor Nikki Haley. And hey, we got a great group of board members that we work hard and we play hard. And I just enjoy it. And I was happy that I was also able to help bring Dr. Adderley on, to get him on as part of that search committee to get a new president during our tenure as well. So great to be here.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our new folks. I'm Carly Fennessy. I am Director of Academic Operations at the College of Arts and Humanities at Clemson. I'm from Seneca, South Carolina, which is where I live now. I am also a proud alum of the inaugural class of the residential program that arrived on campus in 1999. So I always love getting to come back, and I've been on the board for just a little over a year now. Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Josh. This is my second board meeting, so I know everything. I'm glad to be with y'all to serve. Some of the most important things about me are I'm married to Kristen, and I have 4 wonderful children that my parents are watching currently. Been getting some a long time, but glad to serve with y'all. I serve as a pastor in Irmo, South Carolina. Graduated with a degree in classical guitar from South Carolina. But this has been a pleasant surprise that I didn't know was an opportunity, so I'm just glad to be serving in this capacity. Look forward to learning all that there is.
And I'm Sandy Ayers, and I'm new, not brand new. My first time was last meeting. I am really excited to have this opportunity to work with a group of people who are the best in their area. And my husband is my chauffeur. I hope that's okay with everybody. But I look forward to working with all of you because I know that a lot of things will happen with this board.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm Faye McDaniel. I'm an ex officio member because I am the South Carolina Governor's School Foundation Board Chair. Yes, I have a connection with Virginia, as you discussed through the Fine Arts Center, but listening to all the university connections as we went around the table, I thought I have a very convoluted connection to, I think, every university I've heard so far. So long story and not for today. But I'm excited for you to learn, for those of you who are new, to learn more about the foundation, and we'll be giving you an update later today.
Great. And Gerald, I think, yeah.
Gerald, this is, I think, year 2 for me on the board. Educator, has some over 47 years in education in various capacities. Coach, been a principal, I've been working with the district office level, and in fact, during most of those years at Irmo High School. And I'm proud to say I have a second student on the board. Fallon was my student, as was Andrew, and we haven't been sitting side by side. And also during that tenure, we had what we thought, at least at the time, was a very excellent arts program at Irmo High School. I was part of that, and during my tenure in Greenwood as a middle school principal, we had an arts-infused program for students, and it was really like a magnet school for the arts in the middle school. And so I've always had an appreciation for the arts and have been heavily involved in education for years, and it's just been a real joy to be a part of the board, and I think those of you who are just joining, I think you really will enjoy the students, the staff, and all that's offered here.
Great. Well, we are really excited to have a full complement of very talented folks on the board and a lot of different backgrounds and experience, which is really helpful as we move forward. Irvin, I can tell you there was a point at which, just because of the natural, resignations and people leaving the board for whatever reason and the appointment process and how long it sometimes takes. We were down to about 5 or 6 members at one point, and so we've been looking for some new friends, and glad to have such a full board. We appreciate the governor appointing everyone, and again, the experience that we've got is just incredible. And as you learn more about the governor's school and the really incredible things happening here, I think you'll enjoy being part of this board. So, one other announcement: I've been asked if you did not get caught by Christina coming in to have your photo taken, she would like to take your photo before you leave today. So after we break, before lunch or whenever, if you will. Christina may have stepped out, but just see Christina kind of over there. They've got it set up for photos so that we can all look good and have the same background. And I've been instructed that we
At least one of those two.
at least one. Yeah, exactly.
background.
That's right. That's right. We do have the minutes from our last meeting, so I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. If
So moved.
I have a motion and a second from Ms. Lee, and motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? All right, that motion carries, and we've approved the minutes. Dr. Adderley, we're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's thrilling to be here. Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning.
Situated.
And I understand you and Fallon are neighbors, right?
We are indeed neighbors.
Is he a good neighbor? Is he?
He's a
No, he's not like conducting any loud orchestras in his backyard or anything, is he?
He is always working in his yard. His yard looks so good.
Yeah. When I call him, he's either here, which he is most of the time, or he's working in his yard. Those are the two places I always catch.
Good morning again, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Give a special welcome to our new board members. And I personally look forward to helping you all get acquainted with the governor's school. It's my 11th year, and as I've always said, after really digging into our work here, I really do feel that the governor's school is a model for public education. And over time, I think everyone who is new to the board will agree. I'm going to go back and quote a former board member, Dick Elliott, who said, Dr. Adderley, everything's not perfect about the governor's school. I said, no, it's not perfect, but we are indeed a model for public education for what we're able to do for students. And we take what South Carolina gives us, and they excel because of what we do. And that's what public education is supposed to do, because every student excels in this environment. And I'm just so happy to still be a part of this very special learning community. You have a copy of my written report, and I'd like to highlight a few of those items and discuss a few others that I think will be of interest today. Since our last meeting in December, we closed the fall semester with our regularly scheduled department performances and events, all of our big events. Music and dance held their large performances at the Peace Center, which we do at the end of every semester. The VA department had their annual student show that was up at the Limpskin Gallery during the last board meeting. I know a few of you may have gotten a chance to see it then. Creative Writing held their annual end of the year junior and senior readings on the campus. Studio 3 and Studio 4 and drama productions were presented in SCGSAH, and our fall film presentations were outstanding. Film has taken its rightful place as our sixth art area. And our students did all of that while completing final juries, exams, and all the outstanding academic work that they do every year. And as always, it was a heavy lift for the entire Govey community. But also, as always, they rose to the occasion and closed the semester strong with a great level of achievement. And they also opened the spring semester very strong, because we never let off the gas as we make the transition to the next marking period. But we were unfortunately dampened by a little bit of inclement weather, as you'll see on the slide there. Oftentimes when we have inclement weather in Greenville, people don't think that it's really as bad as it is, but I think South Carolina got hit pretty badly this time around. So we unfortunately had to expend all of our e-learning days, to the extent that we have 2 makeup days on the calendar, one being last Saturday and the second scheduled for March 28th. A big thank you goes out to Dr. Thomas for her role in working through the makeup schedule with our faculty to ensure that our students continue to move forward with the makeup day for the current quarter. And we're on track with what is required for all of our students this semester. Also, a big thank you to our public safety and facilities team for keeping our campus safe and clearing the campus for our eventual return in the semester when the weather finally moved on. In my written report, I mentioned a new blacksmithing class that is offered by our VA department, led by Carrie Morton and Ben Gilliam. It's good to see that class in action. If you spend any time in the Low Country, you know that blacksmithing is an art form that is very much a part of the culture in that part of our state. And there has been a conscious effort to keep that alive in many southern states and many southern artists. And thankfully, it's right here on our campus. I've not ventured out to attempt trying any of the metal work, but I hope to do so at some point. I'd like to give it a go because it's such an amazing art form. And I've never taken a visual arts class, couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler. But one day I'm going to get in there and try my hand, and if they've got the torches and the metal out, and you hear somebody screaming, that might be me. Also on that same slide, in the top of that, you see our woodwind choir. They performed at our State Music Educators Conference this past month in Columbia at the Convention Center under the direction of Dr. Lauren Vaughn, who is our music chair. We've been very fortunate in music to have an ongoing presence at that conference for the last several years. And I'm pleased to say that the music education community in South Carolina has a deep respect for our work. It continues to grow every year because of the connections that we're making, going out into the schools, inviting students and teachers onto the campus. So to walk the halls of the conference and people are glad that we are there and really want to interact with us and interact with our students, that speaks volumes about the relationships that we continue to build throughout our state, not just with music, but with all of our programs. Below them, you'll see our creative writing students on their trip to the Greenville Children's Theater as a part of their playwriting class, another collaborative course. And our dancers at that lower photo in one of the poses advertising their senior showcase. What's unique about this year's senior showcase for dance is that it's an ongoing collaboration between the visual arts students and the dance students. As part of the photography class, our VA students took a series of photographs of our dancers in nature and in some other scenes that were ultimately used to advertise the senior dance showcase. And if you've never attended the senior dance showcase, oftentimes we advertise the big event in the Gunner Theater at the Peace Center, but the senior showcase is held right here on the campus in the Floor Dance Theater, and it's up close and personal. And you really get to see the athleticism of dance because there are only 3 rows of seats and the dancers are literally right in your face. And it's quite an event. So if you've never been to that type of dance performance, I highly recommend you go to that type of dance performance here and see our young dancers as that is a student choreographed and student production from start to finish. And now that they've collaborated with the visual arts students, that adds another level of creativity to what they're doing in that particular performance. So I highly recommend that next year when our seniors do that event, that you put that on your calendar because it really is a great performance to see, and tickets go quickly. So make your reservation as soon as we make notification about that. Once again, we were well represented at the annual Arts Advocacy Day at the State House. Ms. Mangle again attended along with our outreach staff, Ms. Baker and her staff, and outreach and student representatives. You see them in that top picture with Representative Hyatt of Pickens County. This is an annual event, and it's always good to see our elected officials outside of the budget hearings and the general sessions. Especially when they interact with the students and with our campus representatives. We see a different side of them, and they are really enthusiastic to interact with South Carolinians and not necessarily having to be stuck interacting with each other all the time. So it's always one of my favorite events to attend. I know that our students and our employees got a lot out of that day, and I'm just pleased to say that as a school, we continue to get great support on both sides of the aisle in our state. because they recognize the value that we bring. And again, being that model for public education and doing all the things that we say we're going to do as a campus, we get great respect. So it's always good to interact with our elected officials. Again, this year, our students won a significant number of the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. This level of excellence has come to be an expectation for our students as they win state, regional, and national awards literally all the time. The Gold Key winners are the ones that will be adjudicated at the national level, and they will have a chance to make a trip to New York later in the school year for the national ceremony. But our students are always highly competitive in any type of competition: all-state band, all-state choir, all-state orchestra, all the state art awards, state drama awards, national drama awards. But it's just good to see that we have that level of consistency across the board with all of our students. If you've had a chance to read the Greenville News on this past Sunday, you likely saw the feature on Danielle Brooks for the Century Cycle Continues Monologue Competition. This event was a huge success on so many levels. It was her event hosted on our campus, and we were able to welcome some of our most successful alumni back to campus, but we also allowed her an opportunity to launch a project to give back not just to the Governor's School, but to the state of South Carolina. We were humbled to see her in this environment and just to be a part of the history, because Danielle wants to continue supporting students from all 46 counties in the state in pursuing their passion for drama and for further study, whether they choose to come to the Governor's School or somewhere else. She gave 3 scholarships to students from all over South Carolina and 1 for a Governor's School student. Yes.
You might want to just tell people who she is. Some people may not know. It's pretty significant.
She's definitely one of our most visible alumni. Danielle starred in The Color Purple on Broadway, as well as the remake in Hollywood. She was a star. Tasty is the character she played in Orange is the New Black in the Netflix series. She was a star of the Mahalia movie. She's recently done a few episodes of Instant Dream Home. Academy Award nomination and Grammy Awards, and a host of other national and international awards. From Simpsonville. Didn't know what a monologue was when she auditioned for the Governor's School, and was just what we come to know as a model student. And with all that she's done, and I mentioned this in her introduction because I was able to introduce her at the competition, she's remained humble and is a true to form role model for so many young actors and for our students with all of the success that she's had. So we're just honored to have her, and she brought 3 other Govey alums with her as a part of the judges panel. It was just inspiring to see her want to give back to the state, give back to the school, and continue that level of engagement, although she is truly a mega star. That's what can happen through the Governor's School experience. So we're just proud to have this ongoing relationship with her, and it's good to see the parents and others come to interact with her as well, and with the others that came to visit with her. So it was a great event, and we expect this. She wants this to be an annual event. At some point, it will definitely outgrow what we can allow on the campus, and that's to be expected when you've got that type of star power. But she is definitely a huge success, and we're just happy to still be in communication with her on a regular basis. This slide is not as much of a headline as the previous slide. We're in the middle of budget season with the General Assembly, and I'm pleased to report that all of our hearings are complete. We've been through the Governor's office, the House, and the Senate, all very pleasant presentations. We've had a reasonably warm reception across the board. Unfortunately, our preliminary support from the House Ways and Means Committee was not at the level that we desired, as you will see that's shown on the slide. It's my understanding that there is a push to cut recurring funds by about $500 million, while still raising teacher salaries and increasing some other funding for critical areas of the state. However, we came out ahead of all the special schools with what was proposed by the House Ways and Means Committee, as you see here. There were some recommendations for agencies that received $0. And I can't speak as to the rationale for that, but with what was supported, we did get more support at this level than the other special schools and the other two governor schools. We're starting to think that this will be another lean year. Oftentimes, that is communicated to us, but the full House is still working to complete their final recommendations, and the Senate as well is working to develop their budget, and hopefully they'll meet in the middle with a bit more allocated to the governor's school. Mr. Riley, our legislative liaison, Ted Riley, he is advocating on our behalf this week. I'll join him in Columbia next week, and hopefully by our next board meeting or prior to that, we'll have something that's a little bit more positive to show as far as what is actually allocated. But these are simply the allocations that are recommended from the House Ways and Means subcommittee and not, House Ways and Means Committee and not the full House. So this is definitely not final, but this is where we are as of today.
It's worth noting, particularly for those of you just joining the board, we've traditionally done very well with funding and support from the General Assembly. This is probably more reflective of the macro picture this year, as Dr. Adderley mentioned, and some of the bigger cuts that they're trying to work within. But we have a lot of capital needs. We've done well with having our new music building funded, the residence hall, a number of other initiatives. So, it's a multi-year process, particularly with the capital projects. But overall, I wouldn't want someone to have the picture that, we have not had terrific support from Columbia, because we really have. And of course, the budget process is never over until it's over too. We traditionally do better in the Senate than we do the House, just as the way it kind of comes out. So we'll see where it all ends up.
Absolutely. This is just one step in the process, and we've had some amazing support over the course of my tenure. We're talking about over $16 million in capital projects and increasing the budget, 20 new positions. It's been a very generous level of support, and again, on both sides of the aisle. It's not where they're thinking that we're just up here singing and dancing in Greenville and the arts aren't important. They really believe in our work. They really believe in our work, and there's a clear return on investment in our work, as we have communicated annually, and that's why we've had that level of support.
And we're not like a local school district.
Exactly.
We don't have taxing authority locally. We are technically a state agency, a small state agency ourselves, so we're funded through the General Assembly.
Yeah. So I expect that good level of support to continue, because they do respect our work, and they love to see what our students are doing, where they go. And again, the majority of our students end up right here in South Carolina, generally on scholarship, either in the arts or some type of honors academic scholarship, going to all of the institutions in our state, and many are working in our state. And I like to believe that we can take credit for really changing the face of arts education in our state, because a lot of our students are right here either as arts educators or working artists or arts advocates, or doing other things that really have an impact in supporting arts and education in South Carolina. So we've done a lot, and everyone recognizes that. It's just that as the economy shifts, the legislature has to make certain decisions, but we've gotten great, consistent support over my tenure, and I have no reason to believe that's not going to continue. In the area of outreach, I don't have a map to show you today. I usually unveil the map at our June meeting, sometimes a little bit later, but although I've never been one to make promises, today I'm going to guarantee that we will again impact all 46 counties for the third consecutive year. I have that much faith in our work. I have that much faith in our outreach organization and the commitments that we're making and the relationships we're building all over the state. And we've got 3 counties to go, and I'm responsible for 2 of them. So we will indeed make it happen. Over the course of the last several years, we worked really hard to solidify relationships and ongoing relationships all throughout the state. And it's just good to know that we are Our work throughout the state continues to grow, and our relationships, our collaborative relationships, our partnerships continue to grow because people believe in our work. And as I've said before, an outreach experience for many students will be their only governor's school experience, and we've got to make sure that it is a great transformational experience, and that's what we do. For some of our students, the summer program is their only governor's school experience, and that's okay as well. But as long as we go into that with the mindset that we are going to be committed to that experience and building relationships, it works out in a positive fashion for the state, and that's what we've done.
Could I add something on that?
Absolutely.
Just particularly for the new people.
Absolutely.
Our original charter was that we would be an arts resource for the whole state. At that time, they had interactive TV. What did we call it? Maybe that's what we called it.
Video learning or something.
Yeah, something like that. And so we had rooms here and all this stuff equipped to do this, to be broadcast throughout the state. The problem was the legislature never assigned any money to the schools to get the other end of it. So that never worked.
Distance learning. That was
Distance learning, yeah. And so, but it was part of our charter, and I think it's been very important, and Cedric's done a great job since he's been here and moving this along. But I think the significance is number one, in addition to being part of our charter, number two, it really, I think, solidifies our relationship with the legislatures, with the schools throughout the state. It's a very important part of what we do. And I think it's very important we continue to do this at the highest level possible. So.
Relevant to this slide that you're seeing right now, last year we were approached by a representative from the Call Me Mr. program at Clemson University because he recognized the value of the arts and the work that we were doing around the state and outreach and the impact that it was having. Most specifically, the Spark program that won the Riley What Works Award, and the statistical significance that that program had in building literacy skills using drama techniques. So the program director for Call Me Mr. wanted to give his pre-service teachers every tool available to be successful teachers. And in turn, their teachers, they would be successful. He wanted them to be successful because they really deserved those extra tools. Through the grant from the Hilliard Foundation, we've entered into that partnership to explore how arts can support educational efforts in the classroom. And we expect this to have a real lasting impact on their work as pre-service teachers, as new teachers in the state, and for our relationship with Clemson University and with outreach throughout the state. If you're not familiar with Call Me Mr., it's a program that provides tuition assistance for education majors in teacher ed programs. It gives them cultural and social support, and it gives them assistance with job placement, because although there are some districts that still have some issues with teacher recruitment, the Call Me Mr. students, they don't have problems getting jobs because they're very well trained, and some of them with the history of the program have now moved on into administration. Some of them are superintendents, some are mayors around the state of South Carolina. I was fortunate enough to be made aware of this program 26 years ago when I was on faculty at Claflin, and they were just getting Call Me Mr. off the ground with the partnership between Clemson University, Claflin, South Carolina State, and Morris College. Now that partnership has expanded to 25 colleges throughout the state, 40 corporate partners, and also satellite programs in 11 states. So it's really done wonders for education in the state of South Carolina, especially in rural South Carolina, where a lot of young people grow up really wanting to go back to their hometown and make a difference in their home communities as professional educators. So this will be the only time you'll see me wear an orange tie. But really thankful for this partnership with Clemson University. Dr. Roy Jones, who is at Clemson now, was actually chair of education at Claflin when I was chair of music department there. And it was great to see those students really committed to education. One of them is an associate superintendent in Orangeburg County now, who was a choir member and one of the misters at Claflin back in 2001 or so. And it's just a great program that I hope will continue to grow and grow and grow, because like us, they're making an impact statewide. I don't have a slide for the strategic planning because Ms. Greenway will join us virtually when we get to that point in the agenda. But I'm very pleased to say that our work with Ms. Greenway and the Greenway Strategy Group and her associates has been very positive. At the last point in getting feedback from the campus community, we had a statistically significant number of responses to the survey, and all the responses indicated that people saw themselves in the plan, in the framework that she'll present today. And that's really good, because a good sign of a good plan is that people see themselves in the plan. They see a future of building the organization in a plan, and they buy into it, and they want to do the work that is outlined in the plan. So Ms. Greenway has done a really good job. We've enjoyed working with her, and I know when she comes on the call later on this morning, I think all of you will get a good bit out of her presentation, and believe that it's been money well spent in working with her. As always, invite you to our performances and events each semester. It's been an outstanding performance year, and I think that any performance that you come to, large or small, will be one that you will thoroughly enjoy and get a lot out of. It's been great to see the growth over time just in this point in the semester of those new Govies who joined us back in August, and then looking at the growth over time of some of them that joined us as juniors last year that are now seniors that we know are going to go on to do great things in the arts. So hopefully, if you didn't catch one of the performances last night, you can catch one soon. The link is in your agenda, but we also have performance calendars on the website, as well as available to you if you'd like a hard copy. So with that said, always happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Dr. Adderley? Bane?
Dr. Adderley, I read your report, and I noticed you had a great section on the success of the Spark program. And I also note that it's unsupported by the legislature so far in the budget. And even though the budget's not final, are you getting some early indication about why in particular that was not supported?
I've not gotten any specific indication why it's not supported, but there is some level of interest in supporting it by alternative means.
Yeah.
So there may be some other type of partnership with a particular district or a group of districts in a part of the state where it's really needed. We tend to focus on areas where there isn't strong budget or support at all.
Right.
And there's some interest in developing partnerships that may be supported by a district or a county and not necessarily the General Assembly. Because it's a fine program, and it's making a huge difference in the lives of a lot of students.
Well, and the good news is that through the National Endowment for the Arts, South Carolina Arts Grow, we do get an amount to support that. That's not the total program. So I did want to clarify that for those who are new here. That program, as far as I know, will continue, and it's important to our outreach to all the 46 counties in the state.
Right. I think that program will definitely live on, and I think it will grow. I
Yeah.
think we've got some interest, and if there's interest, like I said, there's a will, there's a way. We'll make it happen.
How much were we funded last year through the state for Spark?
We weren't. It was still grant funded.
Okay, I didn't think,
The
yeah, so
grant is,
it's,
how much
yeah.
is the
'Cause
grant?
we're-
About $700,000.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite substantial.
Right, so we're
But
kind
it
of in
is-
that transition, yeah.
Yeah, it does come through the National Endowment for the Arts, so it gets a little tricky when you get into the larger political
Right,
climate around
yeah,
that funding, because that's what's passing through South
Yeah.
Carolina to come to us. So,
okay. Any other questions for Dr. Adderley? Thank you, Dr. Adderley.
Thank you all.
And we will recognize Ms. Betsy Beam another person we're very lucky to have who keeps everything running
Amen.
around here.
We
And,
have a team that does it. I wish I could take credit for all of the things that break, but all I can do is write the checks. So, and hopefully keep us in the black. Richard, when you've got a minute, I'll let you pull that up. Oh, it's me? Okay. Thank you. Wonderful. Much better. Thank you so much.
there's one of those people right there.
That's right. We're going to talk about Richard in just a minute. One of the things that I get to do here is be a part of an amazing infrastructure team. So I want to you have it on your report. Certainly not going to read that to you today, but I want to highlight a couple of those teams. One of them is facilities. A couple things they were able to do since the last time we saw you, thanks to Richard with IT, Robert, who is head of our public safety, and Tim Getchell, who is head of director of facilities, got together. One thing we were missing is when you have students and you want to do a shelter in place. People had construction paper over their windows, like a door if you're sheltering space. We had everything and everybody was providing their own. So we said, okay, we can do better than this. So that team got together, found a great company out of Greensboro, and we were able to put black coverings that just at one touch of it, it falls down, covers the window. So it's truly made the classrooms and offices and places where we've identified as shelter in place, a true shelter in place and much safer. So a huge shout out to facilities, public safety, and IT for getting that done. It would be, we've talked a little bit about the snow, and obviously we all share the same pictures. Mine is before and after. If you'll see on the left-hand side, the color ones, that's where we put down 13 tons of salt prior to the event, and then that's the event itself. So even with that much salt, which was literally, we were the only people in town that had salt. It just, especially on that second event, and that was because, again, facilities keeps several tons all the time, but there are things that you just can't, do. So even all the salt in the world did not clear those sidewalks. So I just wanted to let you see, why it was an absolute must to close. One of the things that public safety is doing for us, we are looking at getting our own truck with a plow and a salt spreader in the back so that we're not totally reliant on outside vendors anymore. One of the reasons that we couldn't open as fast as we would like to open and as fast as Greenville County was able to open was because we couldn't clear our parking lot. I mean, there's only so many shovels that people can put in their hand. We didn't have the equipment, so we had to wait on an outside vendor. So we're looking really, really hard at how can we do that better in the future? How can we get our employees back? How can we get the students back faster? So that's something, bring to you, let you know how that goes. But I did want to let you know we are looking at it, trying to do as best we can. The finance office is one of the things that I'm really proud of is the last 2 years, every single department has taken their own budget and really, really done a great job with it. When I first got here, I remember one of the first community meetings I went to, I took a big jar and it had $10 million in it in fake money, and I said, here's the jar. We can put it all to, I remember even saying, I said, we can hand it all to Dance and we can all go home. It's one bucket of money. So we have finally matured into where we all have our own small buckets now, and everybody has been absolutely amazing. The department chairs have really, really stepped up. For some departments, it was very new to do a budget. But there was no reason somebody needed to come to me and ask it to buy a paintbrush. That was just insanity. So anyway, the departments are doing their own budget. What we did this year is did an additional exercise of where each of the departments also did a 10% cut. What would that look like if we had to cut expenses by 10%? And I truly want to do a shout out to both the finance department and to the departments themselves for taken that so seriously. Everybody came with a plan. You know, it's not a plan we hope we have to do, but at some point, you know, if you have to, there is a plan in place. So super, super proud of all of the departments were able to do that. And the only other thing that I want to, that has happened since the board report went out, if y'all, the people have been here on the board for a little while may remember we took over doing the meal payment plan from Aramark about 3 years ago. And we would get to the end of the year and we would just have all this money that we didn't know about where the parents had not paid. Because we weren't able to see who was paying, who was not. So we took over those meal payments, passed it on to Aramark. We, as of today, which is really unusual, and they have till March 30th, we only have 2 that are outstanding. So we're so excited. I mean, there are only 2 that we're just a little teeny bit worried about, but we've talked to them. I think it's just going to be a little bit slower, but I don't think there's anybody. The past 2 years, we have not had to turn anybody over to the state for collections, and that's huge. We are so excited. But, you know, that, again, huge shout out to the finance team for staying on that on a monthly basis rather than wait until the very end of the year. Do want to talk a little bit about IT. A couple things that are going on that you'll note in your report is we are moving to an additional layer of multi-factor authentication. In other words, we're going to try to make it safer so that, you know, Richard and his team do an incredible job to make sure that we are as safe as we possibly can be from any type of hacking or outside anything like that. So kudos to that. There'll be a cybersecurity assessment in the fall. That lasts, oh goodness, almost a year. Last time, months and months and months and months. So they're getting ready for that, updating policies. We had a great audit last time. We expect even a better audit this time. You know, we're able to learn from what they're looking for and what we need to be. So kudos to that team. 2 things that have happened in IT since actually the board report went out. We received a grant from the Department of Education for access control. So what's going to happen is we're going to have all new doorknobs on certainly on all classrooms, and as far as we can go, they're going to be, certainly you can use a key, but they're also going to be keyless. So you can go in by your ID. That way IT can always know who went in what room, at what time. They'll be reported all the time. Eventually we'll do the whole campus, but we got a $137,000 grant from the state to get started on that project. So we're really excited about that. The other thing that's coming up with IT, and a huge shout out to the foundation, I believe when the Visitor Center was first built, there was a small endowment fund that was set for future needs for just the Visitor Center. So we've tried to be very careful and each year, you know, try to use those as we can. This year, we're really excited. We're upgrading what is the front entrance and how you check in. So IT is working very hard, almost there, almost everything's here, so that when you check in, you can do it at a kiosk. You know, we certainly will have the person at the desk. You never want to replace people. That's not what we're trying to do. Trying to make it faster for parents, for visitors, for anybody to check in. Trying a couple new things. Some of our visitors, depending on the level that you are, you know, if you can walk alone on the campus, then you get a different color lanyard so that we know immediately that it's okay for that person to be without somebody, but they're still a visitor. So anyway, some very enhanced IT technology at the front that we're really excited about, and thanks to that endowment fund for helping us get to that point. The next one is our production department. This is the film set, and I bring this in here because they built an entire house inside the SCGSAH auditorium. And I mean literally an entire house. So the film department then had films that started in, I believe, 1920s, then 70s, then the apocalypse. So you'll see the furniture. But what is amazing is not only the gallons of paint that went into these rooms, you'll see the rugs changed, the carpet, the furniture changed. Every single thing changed. They did an amazing job on literally a shoestring. Both the film department and production department, just in their design and they're, I mean, Goodwill had a $20 couch there that was okay. We didn't really need it to do anything but sit there and be torn up. So, but anyway, production just did a super, super job on most everything you see was borrowed, because where are we going to store all this dining room and stuff? So kudos to that team for what they did. And I truly don't want to steal any of Dr. Thomas's thunder, but I will tell you that the film department told me that on the last scene, they had the last scene to do. It was a 12-minute scene, and they did it in one take. I remember Mr. Human said, "I've never done that in Hollywood." So a one take for a 12-minute scene was and that's a total shout out to the film department. They are really, really, really. We're excited that this film is going to be shown at their final film. So hope you can attend that one, because I think that will be a great thing. But again, just kudos
What's
to.
the name of it, Betsy?
I don't know the name of the film. I've never heard.
Actually several, so I don't have all those titles, but
Yeah.
we'll have some, depending on the length, we could show, they're all short. We
Yeah.
could show one at the June meeting, or certainly do kind of a sizzle reel, as we call it in the
That'd be
industry.
great.
Jennifer's
That's
really
impressive.
getting into it now.
We'll give you some, the stills from it are astonishing. If you didn't know you were looking at a house built inside a sockets, you would think you were in somebody's living room.
Yeah.
It's just, and then with the lighting and the costumes and the whole thing, so it was a big lift for all those teams, big, but just stellar outcomes.
And SCGSAH is our black box theater here on campus. Yeah.
I failed to also mention, because I was so busy talking about production, that the drama department seniors also acted in this film. So it was a huge collaboration of lots and lots of teams. So, all right, now we're going to go to the fun part, and let's talk about some money. The capital projects, the generator project is underway. We're waiting we have signed everything. The generator is on order, and that's to add another generator to the kitchen. We're short. That way, much more of that whole end of the building can be on generator backup. So we just needed a larger generator. That's on order. The dining hall expansion, we're really excited about that. I had told you in the past that that's three phases. Phase 1 was to do the outside courtyard and get the additional roof on. That is literally going up next week. The steel is here. They've got all the plates in. So phase 2, which will be the inside, is scheduled to start the first week in April. Going to do some heavy duty removal and construction while during spring break next week, to try to not be so disruptive to classes and to students as well. Once we start phase 2, the inside will be closed, so we'll put tents outside, and that's where we'll eat for the time being. We've done that summers before. We've done that when we've had other events, so we don't foresee any problems with that. But great tent company that we use, so we're excited to get that underneath. The residence hall, I'm very excited to tell you that we do have we selected an architectural firm. We'll meet with them next week. The state still has to put their signature on the last piece of paper, but I can tell you it is a local firm. We interviewed, there were 11 applications, we interviewed 3. And it was unanimous from the entire committee that this particular firm. So again, just because of state rules, I'm not allowed to totally announce it, but we're tickled to death to have this local firm and get that started. So much more to come on that. That's just sort of working its way through the system. So the one thing I thought it might be just helpful to take just a minute, especially for anybody that's new, to let you know where the money comes from. We have a very small amount, about 2% of our budget comes from a federal grant that is for special needs. That's the IDEA money from the federal grant. It comes through the South Carolina Department of Education, and it funds a portion of a salary for our special needs coordinator. Other than that, and a generous donation from the Foundation for Meals, the the rest of our budget comes from state allocations. So just want you to understand why it is, when we go to the budget hearings, why it is so important. That is our funding, because we are a state agency, and as Chairman stated earlier, there is no tax funding. It's not like a regular school. We are truly a state agency that just happens to be a school. So the funding truly comes from state allocations. This is your chart, especially, we've changed it over the years, so, any new member, any current member, if there's something you want to see, we've tried to show you where we've been in the past, where we are today, where we are to date. Typically, it's a little behind. The most I can get by the time of this meeting is the January 31st. So, it's always a little bit behind. But again, the top part is all the capital projects, what we spent to date, where we are. And then in the middle is our operating funds, and that's just pure expenses. Try to mark those if I see or my team sees, hey, we're getting a little close here, we'll mark a caution on there. Fixed charges tends to be dues, insurance, it's any kind of contracts we have, and as contracts go up, it's a little high where we are. I think we're still going to be okay by the end of the year, but when you're at 72%, just barely past the half-year mark, you definitely want to mark a caution there. Most everything else is current where we want to be. The big thing that I wanted to note on the very, very bottom is we've had almost $400,000 this year in unbudgeted expenses. We had to replace a complete HVAC unit in the gym, a complete HVAC unit in the fitness center, 2 brand new compressors in the visitor center, just in the last 3 months. So it is a 25-year-old facility. We are doing one piece of equipment at the time as we can, so those do happen. And if you remember, at the very beginning of the year, we did a boiler. However, we're so excited. Chairman and I were actually laughing yesterday that it's so nice to, the air conditioning's on, the heat is on, everything's running, and there's not this, there used to be this horrible sound in here because the machine was so old that literally towards the end, the facilities guys would crawl up in there and rub soap on the belt so we could hear in the board meeting.
There was an air handler right here. It was so loud that you couldn't hear from this end of the table to the other end of the table. So we've come a long way.
We've come a long way from having to put soap on a belt. So, like I say, it is still an older facility. We are doing them one at a time. We expect unbudgeted things to happen. This is just a much higher year than we had anticipated. Still think we're going to be really, really close on our budgeted, but unbudgeted expenses comes out of one of the things that, according to law, that the 3 special schools or the 3 governor schools get to do that other state agencies do not. If we have money left at the end of the year, we get to roll it over and keep it. So there's been a little bit of pot of money in reserve. Now, every time we have unbudgeted expenses, that pot goes down a little bit. So that's basically where that comes from. But it's also a very hard scale to if you go in and you ask somebody for $1,500,000, and the first question is, what's your cash reserve? If it's $1 million, it sure would be easy to say, well, use your money and we're going to put ours somewhere else. If I was sitting on the other side, that would be my first question. So we try very hard to balance that as much as we can, but we have had incredible support. Certainly my tenure here and Dr. Adderley's as well from both sides. And one thing I think might help a little bit, and I'm going to go, I know Dr. Adderley showed this side, but I highlighted what was actually passed by the House Ways and Means. Now again, that's not the whole House. But if you look at that, the $500,000, the $90,000 was for EIA, that's for teacher salary. That's going to be done. We've never had it in our budget before. It was in the state Department of Education budget. They asked us to move that this year, so we did. So basically what we got in reoccurring funds there, what this committee said was $500,000. But if you notice what's in the yellow, it's all non-reoccurring funds. So other than the top one, every one of the Governor's School from this committee got a 500,000 recurring, and then all of our non-recurring were approved. So, does that have anything to do with it? Certainly, because that's a one-time pot of money. So anyway, when you look at, we were talking earlier about the sustainability for Arts Grow, much of that is in salary, not all of it by any means, but most of those employees are grant funded, so we were trying to get at least those grant funded employees over, and then some of it to rely on the grant for others. But again, that's a recurring ask. The film instructor would be a recurring ask. The mental health counselor, if y'all remember, they gave us the money last year, but not the FTE. And with the state, you can't hire somebody without a position. So grateful for the money because it has now sat there for a year. But anyway, hopefully that was a yes this year to get that FTE. So again.
And that's significant. They
yes.
are, particularly Ways and Means, are very strict about granting any new positions. You have to have that authorized. So to get the new positions is significant.
We were very, very excited. Again, by all means, please know this is a committee. It's not even the full House. I checked as of this morning. The House is still debating as well. They should. So, depends on what happens with the full House and then, of course, with the Senate. But this is where it is today. And again, looking at most of that is a non-reoccurring money, except that very top one where all three of the schools got that same amount. I don't know if you have any questions. Be happy to answer any about funding, about where we're headed. One thing that we are doing because of this year of, such a higher amount than normal and unbudgeted, and to try to get ahead of, in case this is what we end up with, we're looking at not only with the departments with cutting the budget, but what else is there? At some point, just to be totally transparent with everybody, at some point you can only cut expenses so far. About 92% of our budget is payroll. Not saying that anybody's going to get cut. I'm not saying the position's going to get cut. That is not what I'm saying at all. But at some point, if there's not increase, you can only cut expenses so far. It's no different than any other business. We are heavy payroll, but I would say that 99.999% of the businesses in America, that payroll is their top expense. So there will come a time that if we don't get more money, and to be fair to the departments, in all honesty, they're already getting a cut this year because what we told them is we'll roll their budget over. Well, expenses went up, they didn't get an increase, so they really got cut this year, any way you look at it, because expenses went up. So there's already been a natural cut to their budget. Hopefully we won't have to cut more, but the good thing is we've had that conversation with everybody, so it won't be news to anybody if we have to. Again, fingers crossed that, we can make that extra 500,000 go as far as possible. So any questions that I can answer at all?
I do want to
Sure.
point out one thing. Ms. Beam mentioned the collections for the cafeteria, and that's a really important component of what happens here. So since we're a boarding school, obviously we have to feed the students 7 days a week, 3 meals a day. And the only cost for a student, because we're a South Carolina public school, the only cost for a student to the families coming here is the fee for the cafeteria, which is about, it's $4,000? $4,000 even. So there's a $4,000 a year charge. Now, many students, the families cannot afford that, and no student is turned away because they can't afford that, and that's where the foundation comes in. They do a lot of other things, but one of the primary things the foundation does to help the school is any student who is admitted is able to come, and even if they have no financial means, the foundation would supplement that entire $4,000, and there's a scale, there's a process for, it's graduated based on the family's income. So that is a big piece of how this whole system works. So it's not just a cafeteria fee, it's, or just the role of the foundation. That's kind of a key piece to how we facilitate any student being able to come to the school. So.
question.
Ms.
Yes.
Felder.
If by chance, at the end of the day, when we finally have a budget on June 30th, if the budget includes the free school lunches, because you're a special school, would that not apply to you?
It does not, and the reason it is because the way the law is currently written, it cannot include breakfast or dinner. It can only be a lunch portion. We've met with the state, we met with the federal, and it cannot be a buffet. Now, we can change and not allow a buffet anymore and go to portioned food. That's not a problem. Where we ran into is how we couldn't do the breakfast and the dinner. But if we could just get, and we've talked to, Ted, sorry, Riley, to see if he can help us look at that. What would that look like? Could we carve out just the piece of the lunch to fall under that? It would totally change our contract with Aramark because it is a buffet currently, and it would have to go to portioned. I have talked to Aramark. They seem to think it would increase us because it would increase their labor and increase how they currently order and all. So yes and no. It's like Dr. Early and I say, everything's on the table and nothing's on the table. It's kind of like, but sort of waiting to see where that goes and see how in the world we can, try to fit, even if it's a tiny little portion of it.
Yeah, it's a very good question, but
Yes, it's a great question.
I was thinking that currently the budget's considering a dollar amount per child,
Right.
per student. So, but
I wonder if could it be written to allow us, if we could get the supplemental funding and not change our model, that would be the ideal solution.
well, there's time to change that so that, there could be a little exception there for the special schools that provide residential facilities and 3-day meals. You're only gonna get reimbursed the cost of that luncheon because the whole goal is for children not to be called out, if you will, because they have a lunch account balance.
Right.
Some of our districts were giving them a cheese sandwich or an apple in lieu of a meal because they had a lunch balance. We had another school district that was actually paying a collection agency to go after these parents, which, then impacts their credit and their ability to rent a home or purchase a car or whatever. So there are a lot of triggers that this has been kicked around now for years, but I don't think the intent is to treat the special schools any different. I think it's just you're unique. When you're talking about school lunches, you're talking about big yellow buses, pick them up in the morning, drop them off in the afternoon. So I think maybe Mr. Riley can, bend some ears of a couple of the senators that can look at this through a different lens.
Right, and possibly, like you say, a proviso for the three special schools.
Yeah, exactly.
For at least a year or two.
To see how
just
it-
Right.
see
Yeah,
how that works out, because, I don't really know, but to feed lunch in South Carolina, it can't be that different of a price. So if they would just do a proviso to give you your share for the
Right.
lunch portion.
Absolutely.
And our district has free breakfast
Our district does
across
too.
the board. So
Yeah,
that's
they
cheap.
do here in Greenville too.
Yeah. But now your district is paying for the breakfast
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
charge, not the
There you
federal
go.
government.
that's right.
right.
That's
We- we
Department
don't
of
have district.
Agriculture, they reimburse the state for like your reduced and your free lunch program, so there's where that kind of difference comes in, but I mean, there are a lot of rules when it comes to free lunch, reduced lunch, no lunch, but I do think there's plenty of time.
Well, and as you know, the schools in South Carolina are categorized by the percentage of students who qualify for free lunch. And I was asking this question because something came up in the strategic plan yesterday, and The low poverty schools, in other words, the wealthier schools, are 25% or less. And so I asked where we fell, if we were categorized as traditional school, and we're at about 37%, is that right? So we're sort of in the middle. If you were to compare us in terms to other districts and resource-wise, based on the demographics and the population of the school, of our students, we're kind of in the middle. We're not in what would be one of the wealthiest school districts. We're not the poorest in terms of that category, but we're sort of in the middle.
The most poverty districts is free lunch across the board. They don't even have to.
Okay, wow.
But you have to meet a certain level of poverty for that. And we have, of course, multiple counties that do meet that need.
Interesting, wow.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that was great.
That was
Thank
great.
you
That was a
so
great
much.
point, Ms. Lee.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a request, it is not a finance request, sometime in the future, when you talked about the black linings for the
Yes.
windows, for those of us who've been in the classroom, I think, our stomachs just kind of grip like this because we've been there. So at some point, and whoever might address it, it brought to mind, it can get so interesting that in Fort Mill, the city police would come in to each classroom at any point, and you would have to tell them where you would put your students. Now, if you're a related arts teacher, you're teaching either kindergarten, little bodies, or you can teach 5th grade, big boys. And I had windows like this, and I had a fabulously large classroom. I counted with him how many kindergartners I could put in my instrument closet. And it would depend on the time of the year whether all my orff instruments were out or they could go in. So my request is at some point, I would like to just hear what the school has done of that preparation, just because I've never heard, and who responds in order.
That's a good question. We've talked, because we did have a security briefing. It's been quite some time ago when some changes were made. And, of course, we put in the guardhouse a while back and really had to tighten some things. But we can look at that for the next meeting to have our chief come in and also talk through how it impacts the classroom. And
Parents and students as well.
We also have our own individual little police force under state law. So,
And we do and we'll bring it back to the next meeting. We do lockdown exercises each, by law, but each semester where we do a full lockdown. And then it's cleared by the police, so along with the fire and everything else. But we do a full lockdown.
I'm sure you do.
Yes, we do. That's really, really, really important to us. And then afterwards, the security team does a full debrief because you're trying to look for, where did we fail? Where can we do better? So always can do better. But that's a great suggestion, and I will add that to the report too, that every time we do one, just the results of that debrief, just so you can see what happens. Yes, thank you.
Well, Dr. Burns, thank you, Ms. Beam. Dr. Burns is going to tell us how the students are doing.
You're good. I was trying to make it go forward.
What am I doing wrong, Mr. Johns?
Oh, sorry, I checked to see if the Greenway.
All right. Well, first, good morning to each of you and welcome to our new board members. I'm Matthew Burns and VP of Student Development. So I get to work with students outside of the classroom, and that includes not only our student life team, but also with our admissions and our alumni and summer programs office. You obviously do have my written report, but I'm going to share a few highlights and elements that I think would be of interest to you. And I actually pick up where you just left off with financial assistance and admissions. It's important to note we are in the midst of our admissions cycle. We have completed our core auditions. Our priority deadline was in mid-January. But as we have done since day one of the school, there are always students who are just learning about us. I remember with Dr. Aldrich, during her tenure, you would have times where she found a student here, there, or yonder, as we say, and would be bringing them in to audition well into the summer or even occasionally after school started in the fall. Now, we no longer take students after the school year begins, but we are always recruiting for individual students who would benefit from the governor's school, and recognizing that unlike our peers at the other two governor's schools, we're not simply recruiting a class of X number of students to come in at science and math, and a certain percentage are men and a certain percentage are women, and call it a day. We're recruiting 3 or 4 percussionists. We got a bassoonist who applied this morning. Exactly. 5 or 6 cellists. You know, as you go through each of the disciplines, 33 visual artists and so on, it is very precise. And then not only beyond that, we're recruiting to fit them actually in a residence hall that is gender-separated wings, that houses 66 men. You know, it really gets to be a very precise process. So we're in that point of the year where the sausage is being made just a bit. So I'll give you a few updates from the written report to today. But I want to highlight what you were just speaking of, the importance of financial assistance to our students. As you heard, approximately this year, roughly 37% of our students are receiving financial assistance. That is instrumental to our success in recruiting those students. Because as they are coming, as Ms. Felder noted, from a district perhaps where free or reduced lunch is occurring, where all students may be receiving breakfast and lunch, that could be a deal breaker for those families. Simply the food cost, even though it is just a food cost, is substantial for those families. And so anything we can do to reduce that is important. Anything we can do, we are grateful to the foundation support of our meal plan, financial assistance, and we want to always tout that as part of the governor's school experience, that we never want a student to be denied because of cost or to feel that they are unable to attend because of cost. Because often some of the greatest challenges and the most heartbreaking ones are where a student self-selects out, thinking, I can't do that for some reason. So we always want to be mindful of that as we go through our recruitment efforts. So, for our admissions team, Kip Altman is actually not with us this morning. Many of you have met him at previous meetings. Kip is actually joining our faculty council for their monthly meeting, which will be in just a bit. And that is a great time to continue to collaborate with faculty as we think about not only where we are in this cycle, but honestly, we're already starting to think about planning for the fall. So, many school visits have occurred over the course of the year. That information is in the report, but that is a continuing effort. In the spring, we transition often to visits that include career fairs that assist our middle school partners with their career planning curriculum and instruction. That continued recruitment, as I just mentioned, does include efforts to seek a specific student for a particular slot. Now we are at the point where we have received recommendations from our arts colleagues. Students are undergoing academic review as we speak over last week and this week. And then our admissions committee will be meeting when we return from spring break to make final decisions, and decisions will go out on April 1st. We are anticipating a full class of women. We are still looking for a few male slots. I'll talk about that in just a moment as an ongoing challenge as we look at recruitment. Our priority notification for those students, as I just mentioned, is April 1. We do recognize that there will be students who learn about us after that point, and so we always want to give space for that, and we work with our communications team to share that word around the state. As a part of sharing the word, we are continuing with our Endless Opportunities endeavor. This is part of our ongoing work with the other two governor schools to collaboratively recruit. So in the last week of April, we will hit another 5 locations around the state with our peers from the other two schools. We want students and parents and teachers to know about us, to know about the opportunities provided by each of the schools, and to know how unique South Carolina is in that it provides this type of instruction. Dr. Adderley mentioned earlier the Call Me Mr. program with outreach. I was grateful that some of our admissions staff were able to join with our outreach colleagues on Saturday for that work. That is important that every teacher know about us. Simply getting the word out is the first step. And so as these individuals who are pre-service teachers are just learning about us, we want to ensure we're on their radar as an opportunity for their students. Knowing that also students come to us not just because of arts recommendations. Those are important, certainly. but often, and just as often, that recommendation is coming from someone else important in that student's life. So you'll see more information about Endless Opportunities. There is a website for that where it lists the upcoming dates. But please, anyone in your sphere, we invite you to share that information out as well. This slide is a little hard to see from here, but I'm going to hit a few things. I included this information. This is an update of a chart that was provided in your written report. You'll see that we've gained an approximately 60 additional applicants over the last 3 weeks. Again, emphasis on that happening, and as we continue to recruit, we gained 3 music high school applicants this morning. One of them a bassoonist that I know Dr. Vaughn has been very interested in seeing apply. So we are continuing to see the benefits of that. You will see on this chart a few things that we want to note. We have seen a very significant increase in our music applicants. Our music colleagues did a lot of work to adjust their programming, both for summer programs over the last 2 years, but also their high school curriculum. And so we've seen that this year, on a year-to-year number, we're at about 125% of last year's music applicants. That's great news. As other departments continue to evaluate programs, we want to celebrate those adjustments. You will see that male applicants remain a challenge for us. I want to be very frank in that. We recognize that that is not a challenge unique to us. As I talk in a moment about advocacy from our parents and our alumni, we saw that Greenville High took their visual arts students to Arts Advocacy Day as well, just as our students attended. That's great. They took their their AP Visual Arts class. Also great. It was 100% female. So we recognize while that is but anecdotal information, it is part of an ongoing and realized statewide challenge about young men in the arts. We have seen that decrease in young men in the arts accelerate post-COVID. Whether they did not start in an arts program or did not continue, that is something we are continuing to work with to ensure that we are presenting information to students to capture them early in our summer programs, but we recognize that is an ongoing challenge for us. A few other things that I would highlight from this information. You will see that our film applications have continued to grow. We are seeing that as a positive step. We will continue to work with all of these folks are not completed applications. I want to be very clear. So we're working with some of them to complete because they have applied, but perhaps they are missing something. They need to get that last step in, or just simply they need to be scheduled for an audition. And so that is a change as well. So working with faculty on that. That is a point of ongoing individual and personal contact from our admissions team to applicants to ensure that they get the, shall we say, hand-holding that they need as they go through the process as well. Actually, we'll go back just a second. One last thing with our admissions team, as they continue to work, certainly we want to prepare for thinking about the fall, thinking about what that starts to look like. So they are already working with our communications team. I really want to thank Mr. Altman, who is in now his, I believe, 8th month as our director of admission, has worked very diligently to get the word out. Their work this year was impacted by some changes in state procedure. As many of you recall from a previous board meeting, we got an unfortunate surprise. We had a great new hire who was from the Low Country, who was going to be a regional representative for us. And Governor McMaster's office threw us a bit of a curveball as they changed processes for remote employees. And so we did lose that individual. We are working to fill those positions now because that was just a change that was unanticipated as we went through this fall. So that has been a bit of a challenge for us.
That was the executive order on remote work, and of course we don't have any remote offices.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
All right, I want to skip over to this slide for our alumni office. One of the things that, as we think about both admissions and alumni, there is some symbiotic work as we spread the word. Not only, I did not include some slides from Ms. Brooks being here on campus because I somehow anticipated Dr. Adderley might, but those elements help us spread the word. No different than when a college has a sports team that's doing well and they are in the news. It matters. It does reflect positively on the school. As part of that, that included, as Dr. Adderley mentioned, some other folks. Tiana Paris, Brandon Michael Hall, Stacy Scott. Those folks are also alumni of our programs who came back. Stacy did a workshop with these students prior to the competition. Brandon and Tiana served as judges for the competition. It was wonderful for our participants, whether they were from another part of the state or from here at the Governor's School, to get to engage with these top-tier artists in their field. It was also a great point that those students went back excited and talking about the Governor's School. 2 of those students participated in our drama callbacks last weekend because they knew about the Governor's School, they were excited about us, they had already applied, I want to be clear, but then they're going back and spreading the word. This picture also highlights a few elements from our alumni connections. Brandon Brooks, who is in the center there, was in town as part of the Hell's Kitchen musical at the Peace Center. Brandon is a graduate of 2011 in music. He came, did some work with drama and music while he was in town. That is a connection where our alumni are giving back and remaining connected to the school. We want to see that always continue. Some other elements from our alumni office: they're continuing to work with some mentoring opportunities for our students so that we can establish and maintain those connections. Our alumni are always excited when someone is coming to their part of the world to share a little bit about where they are and what they are doing, and we want to celebrate that. Looking to the future, we will have our senior send-off dinner hosted by our Alumni Council in late May, and we appreciate the partnership with partners across campus, but especially Dining Services, to make that happen. That is a nice seated dinner for our seniors. It is on the Wednesday before graduation as we look to the future and help them think about transitioning to be alumni and how they may wish to remain connected to the school. All right. Student life. I put these bullets up here just as talking points, but I want to hit a few things. One, you've already heard how important the mental health counselor position is to us. We do have one current mental health counselor. She's spoken to the board, I believe, a couple of years ago, and a couple of you asked in a recent meeting a bit more about student care. So I'm going to touch on a few things, and then certainly we can always answer any questions. We do have one mental health counselor. Her plate is very full. As you might imagine, with students in today's environment, there are a lot of needs, a lot of challenges for students. That includes elements outside of the school as well as adjustment to boarding school, thinking about the future. I appreciate that Ms. Prosicole works closely with our colleagues in school counseling related to their work and where there is crossover. But we are definitely in need of that second position. We have offered it advertised it several times as a temporary position, but as you might imagine, that has not drawn the type of candidate that we want. So we are very hopeful, please keep your fingers crossed, that FTE position will come through. We are also working to support students across the board with what Dr. Adderley has termed throughout his tenure as our wraparound services, those elements that allow students to be successful in this environment. They are away from home. That could include things such as work with CPR and first aid training for staff that our school nurse, Ms. Sikowski, does. Another part of those drills that I know Ms. Beam was referencing earlier. That includes work to ensure that folks know how to support students with a variety of health needs and concerns. Just in the last week, we've had several things that come up where normally a family would step in, but here a staff member is stepping in as the initial part of that care and support. That includes activities. We are very grateful for our Parents Council and their ongoing support of students. That includes their advocacy for the school. They have encouraged their peers to reach out to members of the General Assembly to thank them for their support of the school, recognizing how valuable and unique this place is. That also includes some education. We have a program for those of you who have had students in the last few years. Our Govy 101 program helps students think about life beyond the classroom, what you might call a residential curriculum in another environment. That includes some things that, honestly, many of us presume students know. Sometimes that may be a little help on how to clean your room. One of my favorite stories over the years was the young lady who took a mop, a traditional wooden-handled mop, and asked, "How did you turn it on?" I promise it was no one who is here or has a child here, let me be clear.
Oh, good, I'm glad you pointed out.
Let me go ahead and clarify that, Ms. Lee, that it does not involve, but it also includes things, how to balance your checkbook, how to change a tire, how to check the air pressure in your tire. As you think about students going off to college, how to book a flight, What might you need to reasonably anticipate if you are flying? You may not take your entire wardrobe with you unless you want to pay an excessive amount. All of those are part of that education, as well as educating students how to work closely with their peers, to be supportive, and to be good self-advocates. All right, summer programs planning. Summer programs continues to be an important part of what we do in our work as a school. As a debriefing out of our last summer programs, we established working groups to hit on 3 major areas to help us prepare for this coming summer. Recognizing that summer programs are evolving and changing, we wanted to strengthen the alignment between the programs, the mission, and the high school to ensure that a student sees a clear progression and pathway between those. Establishing and ensuring that we maintain shared goals and expectations. As students come to us with a variety of level of needs, concerns, questions, expectations, what are they really looking to get? And then how do we help employees be ready for that? Again, as the world has evolved, a safe, consistent, and high-quality experience. This touches on things what Ms. Lee was referencing earlier related to drills and safety. It touches on preparation to work with a younger population. As you can imagine, there's a significant difference, those of you who've been in the classroom, between a student who is a high school junior or senior getting ready to go off into the world and a 7th grader who may not have seen any part of the world outside of their hometown and may not have even changed classes yet. So those are some really important elements for us. That work was collaborative between faculty, summer programs, leadership, as well as staff across campus. I think that sets us up well for this year's programs. We're excited to get those underway. We kick those off in mid-June. And so we are continuing to work as well with groups, with our faculty, as they plan and prepare for the future. What do they wish to change? As I mentioned, Dr. Vaughn has worked with our music faculty to make some significant and positive changes in the work that they are doing in recent years. So those programs continue to evolve from what they have been and will continue to grow. With that said, I just included a couple of photos here. It's always great to see the things that our students are doing. You can see here on the left, this was an activity that Ms. Prossercole organized where therapy dogs came on campus. You've seen this in various slides before, but on the right you see some of that education work, helping students recognize their role within the campus. It says, be the switch. If you, the side of the, let me go ahead and clarify, Ms. McDaniel. Be the switch on the side of that sign. But recognizing that they can change their trajectory as we talk about many paths, and this allows them to think about their relationship as peers, how they can be good models, how they can set internal goals and expectations, and how they can maintain those to maintain strong boundaries and frameworks. So, all right, last thing I will say as we continue to recruit, as Dr. Adderley said, with outreach, the same is true. We do have 3 counties where we are continuing to look for applicants this year, but I am thrilled to report that we have 43 counties in the state of South Carolina where we have applicants. That is a great progression forward. That speaks well to the future. We are working for those last 3 counties. They are 3 of our more rural counties where we recognize that there are inherent challenges, but we will continue to put a good faith effort into ensuring that those students know about us as well. So always happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Burns, and I appreciate your description of how the school is addressing the imbalance in terms of the gender demographics in your applications. I was really struck by those numbers, and I think I heard you say there's 66 spots available for male students, so there's already built in a kind of structure for more female students. But just longer term, I'm really curious if the school is putting its energy towards finding ways of recruiting those 66 male students, and you want to hold the line there, or are you thinking about or talking about shifting the number of the gender demographics of each cohort?
I'll speak on a couple of areas, but certainly invite Dr. Adderley to chime in on long-term goals. Those of you who've been on the board for a minute may recall that 4-ish years ago, and forgive me with my institutional knowledge, the years do start to run together a bit, we actually made a structural change in the residence hall. During your time, it would have been 88 men. We took the top floor of the residence hall on what was the traditional male side. We were able to make it contiguous with the remainder of the 4th floor for female residency, cut it off from the other floors for safety. And so that allowed us to have a swing space of 22 beds that could go either direction. Since that time, we have kept them assigned to female students because that's where we have seen the greatest need. With that said, a couple of things that Mr. Altman and I have discussed. One is increasing where students see a male in the arts, anything that we can do to help them see an example. That may be a current faculty member, that may be a recruiter, that may be someone in their hometown, etc. That could be sharing the word about other artists who are successful. For example, Dr. Twiggs, who sat on this board for many years, has a fantastic exhibit at the Gibbs Museum in Charleston. I highly recommend you go see that if you happen to be in Charleston. But I also mention that because helping them to see successful male arts examples is important. Helping them maintain a connection, if we can get them in early, where we are seeing more success, is a student who is in summer programs, and helping them maintain that connection, even if they do not continue necessarily right away in the arts in their home high school. Talking with teachers, we have had Joshua Powell, who teaches visual arts at Southwood Academy in Anderson, actually worked as one of our visual arts chairs this past summer, has been a great advocate for us. And so we've talked with Joshua about opportunities. So those are all part of those strategies. I will clearly say there is not a magic bullet answer that I can tell you if only we did X, that it would fix the problem, because we do see that as also a pipeline challenge as well. We do see it as something that is improving this year with some, for example, in music, some of the changes that they have made have been very important as well in drawing in young men and helping young men who've previously attended in summer continue. But it is definitely I want to clearly say it is an ongoing challenge, and one that we recognize as important to the growth and stability of the school long term. Dr. Adderley, what you
No, I
might
think
add?
you've covered everything, and it's certainly not a problem that's unique to the governor's school here. They're having the same issues with GSSM and John De La Howe, and nationwide in higher education. It's interesting. I've got 2 sons in college, and when the younger one was being recruited, I noticed some patterns in the recruitment class that each of the institutions are more open to young men and offering them more scholarship dollars and more of the perks that are generally reserved for students of a different academic background, because there's just not enough young men in the pool. So this is just where we are as a nation, with young men being born, just where the birth rate has fallen for the next decade or so, and it's going to rebound at some point. But there are not as many young men participating in the arts, and along with being fewer young men to select from. So it's just been challenging for us, but as Dr. Burns mentioned, we're having some huge successes in music because more of the men have been involved in the recruitment process. Mr. Kipp, Mr. Altman has really worked hard in getting out into the state, especially in rural South Carolina, where he's from. So as we all capitalize on our connections in the state, we'll have a little bit more success, but it's not likely that we'll get back to the 88 beds in the next several years, but long-term, certainly, I expect that we will be able to turn the corner with that.
Okay.
I just, excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, quickly, and Dr. Adderley, for the new people, the film department program is a new program. The foundation did support the investment in the equipment there, and we would expect the film department, as it's so relevant and popular, that would really draw, all students. So hopefully we would see growth in that film department and growth in a diversity of students that would be interested in pursuing that.
If I'm not mistaken, that's split right down the middle. if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, it's sort of evenly balanced,
We
which
thought
is
that,
progress.
Yeah. Big
stop
progress.
motion animation would be geared toward young men, but it was all female the last several years.
Yeah.
If I may chime in 2 things before Mr. Welling's question. To Ms. McDaniel's point, please you will have 2 of our film male seniors at lunch. So they are happy to share about their experience, and we are very excited to be in the second year of our high school film program with some seniors about to graduate. The second thing, as Dr. Adderley noted, this is not a challenge even unique in the arts. Talking with peers at John Della Howe, they use a house structure for their residence halls. They were talking about whether to convert one of those over to female from male, because contrary to what you might think, they had many more female applicants and needed the additional female housing, even as a school of agriculture. And I do not mean to stereotype, but that was contrary to their projections, shall we say. So
I was just gonna make the point that when we opened the school, it was 50-50. We set the dorms up 50-50. And we had to change fairly quickly after that because it wasn't working, so.
This is a topic in our, household. Another example of this is not unique to this school or to this age, but my husband's on the board of Winthrop University, the board of trustees, and just hearing the challenges there, a lot of challenges are being directed in different ways, different majors at Winthrop. Not so much, of course, because of this issue, it's considered, but what is marketable from a recruitment standpoint. An example is aviation. There is now degree, I'm going to stereotype, but possibly more men as pilots. So they will have a degree, but they will have a pilot's license as well at the end of that degree. So it's really interesting how the curriculum itself, but we're an art school, we have our degrees. The film, I have a lot of company coming from Baton Rouge, LSU, and a cousin's son is graduating from the University of North Carolina System School of the Arts with a bachelor's degree in filmmaking. So we'll have some interesting conversations there to see how many of his contemporaries there were male. But it is a financial challenge. Yeah, with this male-female ratio.
absolutely.
Yeah, Catherine?
I do have a question. So circling back to the education portion, you're talking about how you prepare your students here for transitioning to residence life. What preparations do you guys do for your students who are going to go on to be first-generation college students to help them prepare for that transition from being a senior to now being a freshman?
Yeah, absolutely. I will touch on the out-of-classroom side, and I know Dr. Thomas may wish to touch on some of the elements through the school counseling office as well. Out of classroom, it is helping them, particularly I want to recognize Anna Copeland, who is our Associate Director of Residential Life. Ms. Copeland has been here as long as I have and is deeply invested in our students. Ms. Copeland has a real heart and is a first-generation college student. And so she has worked with students and does that where we identify a need. For example, that could include budgeting. That could include things they may not think about. You think, I'm going to school, I've got to pay tuition. I'm going to live in the dorm. How am I going to get there? What am I going to do for breaks? I may need a little spending money, or I may need to buy supplies. It's helping them think through that. It is also helping families think through what are the things they don't anticipate. One of my favorite stories, some years ago, we had a young man who was going to Boston. Dr. Adderley and I have discussed this because his brother is a professor in Boston. As we had to talk with his family, they don't sell coats like that here in South Carolina. There are just simply logistical challenges. But it also includes recognizing that you are not an imposter, that you belong there, and that you have demonstrated success in this environment. And so for many of them, this place provides that foundation to understand they can be successful and that they have the study skills and habits because they've already learned in a semi-structured environment. Yes, obviously there are supports, cares, and supervision. But at the same time, mom and dad aren't here to go, now Matthew, sit down at the table and do this. You've had to learn some of those steps. And I think it's a combination of all of those things. But I do think our student life staff work especially hard with those students who we know for whom it may be a struggle, or it may be a struggle for other reasons. For example, working with a student in the last 2 years for whom it was a language barrier. Mom and dad simply could not read the materials, so helping the student understand, and when I say translate, I don't mean literally translate, but to put it in terms and words and concepts that they understood. Ms. Mattress in our school counseling office does a great job as well. Dr. Thomas, I'd certainly yield to anything you may want to add to that as well.
I think the experience here is a great preparation for transition to college for first generation students, and the school counseling steps in just at that kind of meeting point with college application day, lots of support, working directly with, we're so small, so we really know each student and their story and their family very, very well. And so our school counselor really does work closely around opportunities, kind of what that looks like, what your financial picture looks like as you begin your application process, so you don't necessarily get into your dream school and then it's completely out of reach. So very, just kind of wraparound services and integrated work with an expectation and an opportunity that even just the decision their families made to apply, seek financial support if that was what they needed, and send them away from home to do this, indicates that they're already kind of on a path of what are those opportunities out there. So meet them there.
It's an easy transition. I mean, I think about Sally, she just went from here, because this is it's like college in a way. And she just stepped right in and we didn't even look her way. Here she goes, on to the next thing. But musically too, she was so prepared that way, but academically, all of that, it was sort of easy. And it really, the preparation, and I don't even know all that stuff, but I think just being here alone and living in the city and the whole thing was a very easy. The hardest thing for her was just driving back and forth. Because here you don't drive, and so driving back and forth to Columbia was like, oh. But that was her biggest challenge of all.
Sometimes it's just even learning to use public transportation, depending on where you're going to go.
True.
So
She would have loved that.
I will say, you will each have 2 of our current students at your tables at lunch. They are here to talk about their experience. That includes, as we talk about many paths, students who have come to us from a variety of paths. It also includes one of our film students who's choosing not to go directly to college, who's going into industry work right away. So you'll get an opportunity to hear a little bit more about that at lunch.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Burns, and we'll go ahead and recognize Dean Thomas, who is our Arts and Academics Dean.
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Thomas.
Thank you, sir. It's so nice to meet you all. Welcome to our new board members, and good to see you all. I am going to move. I don't have slides, so Richard, you don't need to stress over me at all. I highlighted in my written report to you several indicators of student success. This is not an all-inclusive list, but in December is when I share data about test scores, about kind of standardized national measurements, compare our data to state and national measurements. These are much more narrative examples of state, regional, and national accomplishments. And these are many of them in the arts, as you see there. So I always want to make sure that the board is aware of those things that every school is measured by, at which we excel and really are more than meeting expectations in. And then also the things that our students are doing that is really very unique to the kind of school that we are. I want to highlight the percentage. 78% of our student body is on the honor roll. There are not a lot of schools that can say that. President's List is all A's from fall semester. We do this at the end of each semester. So President's List is all A's, and Dean's List is A's and B's. There is no grade inflation on the campus of the Governor's School, so students are working really hard and accomplishing, when you kind of look at the number of students who are succeeding at that level in their classes, arts and academics classes, I think that really is an important indicator for us. And you saw there additional information about some other competitions and statewide and regional and national recognitions that students have earned. I do want to highlight that our visual arts students are also filmmakers. So we do have a visual arts student, Alexandra Bennett, whose film Empty Nester was selected as the winner in the Next Lens Film Festival that South Carolina ETV sponsors. So that Red Carpet on the Road group has come and gone, and we'll kind of share information about that film festival. I really appreciated your question about First Gen. One of the things that I'm really proud of is a new competition that the Commission on Higher Education is sponsoring for FAFSA completion. That's the free application for federal student aid. And we are the winner in the 2A classification. The governor's school had 70-something% of our families have completed the FAFSA. By the time they gave this early bird recognition. The CHE was on campus just a couple days ago. They gave the award to Terry Mattress. Our school counselor really gets the word out about applying for the federal application. As Matthew mentioned, our families are not meeting up with their students at the end of the day. So the Office of School Counseling has to really make sure the student knows what to do, the parent knows what to do. All of that, of course, is online and has to be carefully synchronized. But we are still hoping to be the winner statewide of the first completion award. So that's still open and is ongoing. But that's a real highlight and something to be proud of in terms of getting students in the path line for federal assistance. We are searching, I'm announcing here, Jose Garant in the dance department is retiring after a wonderful career with us and having been hired in as the chair of dance. Many of you know her and her work. So the dance faculty actually this morning was interviewing the first round of applications in a national search for a new dance instructor. This will be a teacher of modern dance. So again, as we kind of, this just segues to our conversation about recruiting and admissions, as we build a modern track, which already exists within the dance department, that means we're looking at more diverse types of dancers, and that we're looking at dancers who still would have some ballet training. It's very ballet-based, the program, but as we kind of think about even a faculty hire in dance has to do with recruiting males. Can you follow the logic? Right, that there is a kind of through line to programming as well as awareness and recruiting events. You heard from Dr. Adderley about, I almost called you Dr. Advocacy, which would work. That works in many ways. Dr. Advocacy Adderley shared a great picture of that. I would only add, as an educator and two educators, the students get a really in-depth training about advocacy from the South Carolina Arts Alliance. Jeff Robinson is their executive director. He's a former employee and still very good friend of the governor's school. So the kids did an online training about how to advocate. There's a social media campaign that the students did in the weeks leading up to Arts Advocacy Day. They learned the difference between advocacy and lobbying. They learned really how to use their voice in the public process. And for this case, they're doing that about arts education, but they come away with knowledge of how to do that for all the things they care about and for anything that they would like to advocate for in the future. So it's bravely chaperoned by our social studies teacher, Sharnice Mangle, who loves to be with her students in the halls of the legislature. So it's an educational experience as well as a powerful representation of the school. It's really an important, and now I think a regular part of our February. The other new curriculum planning I wrote to you about is really exciting. This is developing as a contemporary music studio within the music department. This is new. This is fed by summer programs in songwriting, jazz. We've been having those as sort of early pipeline programs. We had a very successful, with our ABC grant funding this, a very successful workshop in February and early March with key faculty who are designing curriculum. So I will bring you a curriculum proposal in June for how this new contemporary music program will segue with our classical programming. And so it's not starting all over. It's not a new facility. It's just looking at how we can bring in some new students and really identify, if you really see yourself as a singer-songwriter and not necessarily a classically trained vocalist, how could you be a successful governor's school student? We have a really great connection, again, with the foundation, which is always the case in my experience when you're looking at programming and good ideas. Stephanie Mundy Self is an alum from the voice department who really, and she's in Nashville in the music industry, so Stephanie is working with Amanda and the foundation on granting towards this contemporary music studio to support personnel, equipment, and some of the other needs to get that going. So I'm very excited about how that's shaping up. We're deferring a deep dive into our national student clearinghouse data until a future board meeting, so that we really have some time to look at that data closely with you, make sure that it's very compelling and exciting, but it's also very challenging to sort of wrap your mind around for the first time. And with strategic planning on the agenda and so many other important topics, Matthew and I will bring that to you in the summer. I do share in this report sort of the background of that data, when it started to be available to South Carolina schools, how it's collected, why it's really significant, and that's just important context. We could certainly touch on that again in the summer, but we'll take a deep dive into that in a future meeting. And my last two sections of my report will come up as motions for new business later in the meeting. We've drafted We've drafted a school-wide artificial intelligence use policy, an AI use policy for your consideration. This is a very high-level umbrella under which many more details and the implementation plans and very concrete and specific guidelines will live. But we really felt, and this is one, it's in my report, but this has been very much all of the leadership team, a cohort of employees across the school, the IT department and Richard's leadership has really been working at getting this far, that in 2026 it doesn't seem responsible for us to not have an AI policy. And so we've developed something with intent as a just sort of high-level consideration for the board, so that we are really cultivating a mindset, as you see in my report. We're really not fearful of this. We're aware of the potentials that any tool can be used improperly, but we're much more interested in a kind of growth mindset around how to bring students and employees, it's all of us. We're in this with the students in a very new field to be responsible and creative users of AI and engage with it effectively. And my other new item, which we can certainly take up later on, is to sort of align our Scholars Diploma, as has been so named for years, with the special diplomas that are offered or that are granted for students who earn them at the Science and Math Governor's School and the John House School, and to truly represent what happens in the humanities. Our students earn a South Carolina high school diploma for completing those graduation requirements, and they earn a school diploma for the over and above that they do in the arts curriculum and in the humanities program. So I'm not proposing that we change any of the requirements of that or any of the curriculum around it, just simply the name, from a Scholars Diploma to calling it simply the Diploma of the Governor's School for the Arts and Humanities. So they're this is Appendix Exhibit 11. In that exhibit, you see what the existing diploma looks like and sort of proposed text for what it would read instead. Moving forward for next year, this would not be for this year's graduates, but those are for future consideration. I'm happy to answer any
Great.
questions or provide more.
We'll vote on those when we get to new business, but any other questions for Dean Thomas on the academic side?
All right, thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Thomas. We appreciate it. Let's move on to the foundation report. Fane or Amanda, who's going to start? Fane's going to start. All right.
I have a special job here today, and that is I want to draw your attention to this nice handout that all of you guys have been provided. And I was very, proud of what I heard about the foundation throughout the meeting today. And as you all have heard, our work is really to support access for students through meals. We support the guest artists that come on campus. We have been a huge supporter of Hadestown, which will be coming out in April of this year, the big student production. And Stephanie Monday, just so you'll know, is a board member on the foundation board. So not only has she offered to work with the school to support some programming need there, she also is our Nashville connection to the Songwriters in the Round. So I want to appeal to you as not only as school board members, but as you have all talked about your passion for supporting the school. Without your support, our event will not be able to generate the needs that the money that we need to support what the students need here at the school. This is our big event this year. Last year it was the gala, but this is our big event. And another thing you should know is this is an inaugural event in Greenville. We had this many, many years ago, but now we've brought it back to the upstate. And we really, truly believe that we need a lot of ticket sales and support to show Greenville how important our student population is to the upstate community and to the state of South Carolina. And also, in this particular year, if you have noticed, in Greenville, there's a lot of music venues coming online through the Peace Center, through some other music supporters, through True Line, etc. So we think this is a great kickoff for us to be part of what is a very vibrant, growing music scene in Greenville. So, you know, we want to really build that community support. So what I'm asking for you guys is to look at your card and see there's a QR code for tickets. And we really need ticket sales. I mean, honestly, that's one thing that we're lacking. And there's also another ask for you guys is that we need some more sponsors. We're looking for additional sponsors. So if you know of a company, a corporation, you have, you know, somebody that you can give us a warm contact with, there's Amanda, the executive director of the foundation, or myself. Be very happy to talk to you after the meeting about this event. So we're real excited. Oh, and by the way, these are Grammy award-winning people that we have showing that are doing these songwriter sessions. So it's an event that has a songwriting element. They talk about the songs they write. They perform. It's really exciting to hear them perform their songs. And you also get an oyster roast and drinks. So come on, fun too, lots of fun. So please come out. Oh, and I want to say special thanks to the Greenville Drive. So the Greenville Drive is our biggest sponsor on this right now. The venue is the Greenville Drive venue. So we're very, very excited for their support and partnering with them to support the governor's school. Thank you.
Do it. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a QR code, and I think we've given you several of these postcards, and there's space on the right-hand side for you to write a note and mail it to someone if you so wish. So I'm happy to talk to anyone after the meeting more about songwriters specifically or the foundation in general. Just a few highlights. Fane mentioned Hadestown the musical. The foundation has previously said we would fund that musical. It's a collaborative musical, for those of you who don't know, between departments at the school. To date, we've raised about $9,000, and we continue to look for sponsors and individuals for that. Right now, we have two very generous individuals and the Metropolitan Arts Council who have supported this musical so far. And we are hosting a donor reception and event on April 15th, which includes a talk back with some of the Broadway production team that is working at the school with our students right now, which is really amazing. So if you are interested in attending that, supporting that, please let me know. I'm happy to.
What are the dates?
April 15th is that donor event.
Yeah.
I believe that's the preview night, and I believe it opens the next night on that Thursday, the 16th.
How long does it run?
Just that week through Sunday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Sunday afternoon matinee.
Thank you. Besides Songwriters in the Round, the foundation is also very busy working to improve our storytelling and sharing the impact that you've all heard here today from various departments. So we're doing that in a number of ways. We're working with a PR and marketing team outside of the school. Since we're a foundation, we are not a state entity. We hire our own contractors and do work with them, in conjunction with the school, of course. But we're working with a PR and marketing team to help, figure out our storytelling and really appeal to our donors and share the impact of what we have here. We are also doing that by having the foundation staff and board members attend performances and classes and seeing the students in action where they are, so we can bring those stories right back to our donors and say, well, last week I saw this amazing performance, or this kid told me X, Y, and Z. Donors really want to hear those stories from the students themselves. So anytime we can capture that, be in the room, it's just so much more impactful. We are also doing that through attending the strategic planning design session, which we'll hear about shortly, but we're grateful to have attended that session. And I think through the collaboration with the school in sharing more of that impact from their side, I think it'll be much more impactful to get these donors and to get people to really understand what an amazing place we have here. We are looking to strengthen our board of directors for that same very reason. So again, some more asks. I'm sorry, that is my job. I ask a lot of people a lot of things. But if you have anyone in mind who is as passionate about this school as you are, the foundation is looking for new directors on our board who have, some network, some philanthropy, anyone who's just passionate about it and who really has a drive to help this school. We would welcome that. We'd love to work with all of you in that capacity as well. And then what else did I have here? I think that's really it. You can read the rest of it in my report, but I'm happy to chat some more with any of the new members who need, a brief reminder of what the foundation does and what else we support. So I'm happy.
Yeah, you'll continue to hear more about the foundation and the important role that it plays in the school. And I serve ex officio on the foundation board. It's a great group of folks, and it has really grown thanks to Fane and several others who've really recruited great directors onto the foundation board. So there are a lot of people behind the scenes supporting what happens here at the governor's school. So thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. So we're running a little behind, but we've got one more important item and then just a couple of sort of perfunctory votes on the things that Dr. Thomas mentioned. Our strategic plan, so we are in the middle of planning for the next 5 years. The good news is that the prior strategic plan is something that we actually used and accomplished the main goals of. It's something that we use in our evaluation of Dr. Adderley as a board. So it is a very active, living, breathing thing, and a lot of the prior plan was focused around the 25th anniversary of the school and a lot of the benchmarks that we've reached there. Now we're looking at the next 25 years and specifically the next 5 years of that and what we can accomplish. And we went through a process and advertised nationally to find a consulting group that can help us with our strategic plan. We really wanted to make sure that all parties had a good opportunity to give input, and we got some benchmarking and ideas from outside as well. And we hired the Martha Greenway and Greenway Group, or Greenway and Associates, and Martha is who is joining us virtually. She was here at our last board meeting, and she's going to be here again on Friday, meeting with a number of folks on campus. So we thought we'd have her just come to us virtually today so that we didn't overstay our welcome, I guess. But Martha, I think you're going to give us a quick update on where we are in the process, so I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you. And I guess it's good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be with you. I'm going to share my screen and walk through a few slides. Hopefully, this will do what we want it to do.
Coming up, there we go.
All right. So I just want to begin by reminding the board of the overall approach. And I do believe there might be some new board members since I provided this initial overview. We utilized 3 phases in our strategic planning approach. The first was the analysis phase, and that includes both an environmental scan and an organizational assessment. We collected a lot of data about the performance of the school. We also looked at a variety of stakeholder input that had been previously collected, and we talked to a number of stakeholders directly. I will go over who was included in that in a moment. From that, we move into the strategy development phase. So you'll see from my little box on the right-hand side that we have drafted the priority outcomes and the strategic themes and objectives, which we did through a collaborative design session involving over 50 people. And we are now moving to developing the strategic initiatives or specific projects that will allow those objectives to be achieved. But before we do that, we wanted to stop here with the board, and just give you an opportunity to provide any feedback. Once those strategic initiatives are developed, we will then select the ones that the school will start with. So it is important that these be implemented in stages, lest everyone tries to run forward all at once on everything and end up with a lot of baby steps in myriad directions, as opposed to really concentrated, focused effort. For those that are starting first, we will create action plans to move forward, and then we will develop a monitoring and review process. So this next slide shows the stakeholders that we engaged in this process. You will see at the top that we held interactive sessions with representative students. We had 5 sessions of approximately 20 students each. These were very interactive, and students generated their own ideas working in small groups in each of the sessions. We also had an interactive session with all faculty and staff at the beginning of the process. We held focus groups with the Alumni Council, the Foundation Board, the Parent Council, and the School Improvement Council. As many of the board members will recall, we did offer the opportunity for small group interviews with board members. We also did a survey of educators who had made previous referrals of students to the schools programs. And then you will see the list of people that are state leaders that we held individual interviews with. So all of this input, in addition to the data that we collected about the school's performance over the last several years, was presented at a design session where the participants then had the opportunity to think through what this meant in terms of the outcomes that this strategic plan should be directed toward. And then secondly, the strategic themes or areas of work within the school that needed to be transformed in order to further those outcomes. And within the strategic themes, then we were also able to identify specific objectives about what needed to be addressed. The design session included school leaders, faculty, staff, school improvement council members, board members, and there may have also been some external partners that participated. They were the ones who went through facilitated activities to generate the ideas that you are about to see. We then took the draft that you are about to see, and we created a survey that allowed all of the governor's school's employees to review it and provide input. And they were asked to let us know what they liked about it, if they thought that anything was missing, if there was anything on the draft that they disagreed with, and also to tell us for each of the strategic themes you're about to see, what ideas they have for implementation, and that will inform the next step. I am pleased to say that based upon the input from the employees, there really were not any major changes that needed to occur in the draft that came out of the design session. And so at this point, I'm going to walk you through the strategic plan framework that has a one-page presentation of this direction as it exists at this point. So as I mentioned, the outcomes are the area that the strategic plan will improve. And you can see that these are targeted toward the particular beneficiaries of the school. So starting with the residential high school students, this plan will work to ensure that the residential high school students thrive artistically, intellectually, socially, emotionally, and physically. The data demonstrates that the students of the residential high school are performing at accelerated levels academically. They are above any benchmark we could identify for the state overall. When we talk to the students, what they talk about needing or feeling that there could be more in terms of their support are areas around their social emotional experiences, their physical health, and also opportunities to think about their artistic and intellectual learning in more interdisciplinary ways, and ways that also then lead to the second outcome of equipping them and making sure they're confident for life after high school. This includes not only career-oriented preparation, but also life skills, which when we asked them what they needed to know and do when they finished their time at the school, the number one category is financial management awareness and skills, and number two are more general life skills, and that they are prepared for multifaceted evolving careers. And so one of the things that also emerged in our conversations, particularly with students and alumni, but also others, is that creatively oriented people can find careers in many fields outside of the arts. And so ensuring students are exposed to and aware of these opportunities, but also preparing them for interdisciplinary careers and for careers that might lead to more solopreneur or entrepreneurial efforts, so that if they want to leave and immediately start their own business or manage their own career themselves, that they have the skills to do that. The second group targeted by the outcomes are students across the state, and ensuring that all students in South Carolina benefit artistically and academically from the outreach and summer programs. This was a major theme we heard from the statewide leaders, and this is very important to their continued support for the school. Related to that is that South Carolina educators gain the skills to integrate arts in student learning. And then finally, that the state overall benefits from a creative, career-ready workforce. And you'll hear a bit more about that as we get into the themes and objectives. So the next element of the framework are these strategic themes. If the outcomes are what we want for those who are served or benefit from the work of the school, the strategic themes represent what the people who actually work in the school need to address in order to achieve those outcomes. And these fall into three broad areas of focus. So theme A is the residential student learning experience. Theme B is the residential student wellness experience, and theme C is statewide awareness and access. So walking through quickly one at a time, the input that the design session participants provided allowed us to distinguish the specific areas where measurable progress needed to occur in that theme in order to reach the outcomes. So in the category or strategic theme of residential student learning experience, you see that we have continuously improved the arts and academic curriculum, expand interdisciplinary opportunities, enhance life skills integration across campus, and that language is intentional because that can occur in extracurricular activities and residential life activities, in curricular activities, and prepare students for current and emerging careers. Now, one of the things I will note as we go through this is that you will not see technology or facilities specifically named as an objective. And that is for two reasons. Regarding facilities, there is a great deal of support for the school's infrastructure that has been awarded but not yet implemented. And so we think it's important that that work go forward before we start adding on a lot of things in addition to that, before those currently approved projects materialize and we see the benefit and can assess what more might need to occur. But also, any further improvements around the facilities and integration of technology really need to be deployed against these objectives, not as a separate effort just to have technology for technology's sake. So as we see the implementation unfold, we will ensure that the appropriate technology integration is occurring as well. Under theme B, wellness, we have 3 objectives. So balance high expectations with an understanding of the whole child. The high expectations of the school are so important, both in terms of admission and artistic talent, but also ensuring that academic expectations, which are really allowing you to be a premier school when one looks across the state. But we heard from the students that sometimes this can result in a competitive environment, a sorting or selection process that makes students feel less than valued and creates a lot of stress. And so this balancing with an understanding of the whole child is essential, especially keeping in mind that these are 15 through 18-year-olds who have not yet reached their full potential. So the nurturing of that has to be balanced with the high expectations. The next objective is to strengthen a culture of belonging, acceptance, and support. And then the next one, number 7, is to expand wraparound services for students so that when students do experience challenges, physically, socially, emotionally, the services are there to support them. And then lastly, strategic theme C is around statewide awareness and access. And you'll see that these strategic themes, these objectives address a variety of audiences. So objective 8 is to expand the integration of arts and student learning and experiences across South Carolina. So working with educators and others to ensure that the knowledge and tools for arts integration is available and is widespread across the state. Secondly, on number 9 is to broaden the South Carolina student participation in the school's arts education programs. And this would include outreach as well as the high school. And then cultivate partnerships that promote student access, artistic talent, and career pathways. We heard many suggestions for types of entities that the school could partner with that would allow the school to serve more students than it can by itself, that could bring partners who also have artistic talent or skills in promoting artistic talent, and bringing in potential industry representatives, businesses, entrepreneurial individuals who can help support the career pathways. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is to effectively measure and communicate the school's return on investment. So one of the things that we heard loud and clear across the state, particularly from the state leaders, is that it's not sufficient to tell the story of students' experiences at the school or to showcase their academic excellence while at the school. But the state leaders want to know that the school is generating results that support the state's economic development. And so this focus on workforce development, economic development, what is the school actually providing that makes the state a stronger place? That is information that they are looking for and that your continued support is dependent upon. And so we did hear from some employees that phrase return on investment sounds businesslike and perhaps not quite appropriate for a school environment that's dealing with students. And yet in conversation with the leadership team, we think it's essential that that language remain so that it sends a message to the state leaders that their interests have been heard and that this is something that will be addressed while keeping in mind the humanities and artistic talent that the school seeks to nurture. And so with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Adderley if there's anything that I haven't said or that he would like to expand on at this point.
I think you've covered everything, Ms. Greenway. Thank you for your presentation. And what I was really impressed on, and I shared this with you, I guess it was yesterday, that we felt that everyone who reviewed the framework and who chimed in on the survey could see themselves in this work. And that's really important in getting buy-in from any organization when you say you're going to have a strategic plan that's really going to change the landscape of the organization, that those who participated in the process actually participated and were heard. And I think at every level, everyone was heard, and you can see that across the board in the themes and the outcomes. So this is very representative of our work, and I think it's something that could really catapult us forward in a lot of areas that are clearly very necessary to make sure that we are relevant for the future and demonstrating that return on investment and just making a difference for the students all over the state.
Irv, I know you served on the design committee and worked as part of the process. Is there anything you want to add to the?
No, I don't think so. I think, Martha, y'all have done a good job of capturing this and encapsulating it. You know, I felt the session we had on campus, a month ago maybe, was great. There was good energy in the room, and I think that's reflected in here. So I'd love to get a copy of these few slides.
I think we've got some. Do we have printed copies?
I'll send it out.
Okay, just all right. Yeah.
I know Chad and I were talking last night, and we had several ideas that seemed to fit right in with a couple of these things.
Right.
So we're right in path on that.
So for today, basically, we wanted to get an update on the process so the board knew where we were. You know, we're not anywhere near finished. We'll be adding a lot of specifics to each of these items, and then we'll have a lot more discourse on that here as a board as we get into those specifics. And certainly any further input, many of us were interviewed as part of the process. Any of the new board members, if you've got input, you know, feel free. We can connect you with Martha and her group, but we just want to make sure that you understand where we are in the process. In the June meeting, we'll have a lot more discussion on specifics with the plan and go from there. Is that anything you need to add to that, Dr. Adderley?
I think we covered it all.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Yep.
All right, take care.
Thanks. So we've got just a couple of new business items that we don't have any, that we need to knock out. The live stream policy that is in the packet. Yeah.
I do need to explain that.
Are you you're gonna explain it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Okay, in the packet, Exhibit 9 is our public information and disclosures existing policy that was actually approved by the board back in September because of the requirement coming out of General Assembly that we have a live stream policy. Because we already had an existing policy regarding all the communications regarding board meetings, we took the requirements and inserted them into an existing policy. I'm not convinced that it was read thoroughly when it went to be approved at the state level because it was rejected outright and not even brought for discussion. So I had several conversations with Todd Atwater prior to this meeting asking him specifically what was missing, and he gave me those 2 items that are highlighted in red that were missing. Everything else was there that was required. I'm of the opinion that it was fine as we presented it the first time around, but this version of it includes the 2 very specific statements on technical disruptions, which we did have a slight technical disruption that we remedied just as the meeting was starting last time, and then the final statement at the end regarding the administration ensuring that the broadcasts are posted in the appropriate time frame. So this is presented with the very specific wording down to the very last period as requested by Mr. Atwater. So we bring that forth to make sure that we are in full compliance with the expectations of the state of South Carolina. So that is the only change. Those are the only changes from the previous policy that was approved by the board.
our meetings obviously have always been open. We added the live streaming component some time ago.
Right.
And, you know, this is an issue I know with some particular school boards around the state where there have been issues. We've never had an issue. We've always been very open, you know, never had anyone file a complaint or anything saying that we weren't meeting the FOIA requirements and so forth. But what we need is a motion to incorporate these changes. I have a motion from Mr. Welling. Is there a second? Ms. Lee, a second? All right, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. Motion carries, and we have satisfied that requirement, hopefully. All right, and then Dr. Thomas mentioned the AI policy, which is also in the packet. Is there a I'll go ahead and take a motion on that to approve it, if there's a motion to approve. All right. Got a motion from LaShawn, second on the motion. Dr. Fennessy. All right, any discussion on the AI policy? Any other questions for Dr. Thomas? Yes,
The question
Fang,
I
yeah,
had
yeah.
was, does this line up with what the state policy is, or is there anything in the state policy?
There's nothing that
Nothing,
directs.
okay.
I think it's such an emerging area. that-
Okay, I just
yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we've discussed it at prior board meetings, and we asked that we kind of come up with a policy, and the
Okay.
staff brought it to us, yeah, so that's kind
We're
of
following
the,
closely all the guidelines that the state issues, Richard is.
Okay.
You know, all of our offices are, so we're watching that carefully, but districts and schools have not been given guidance on what a school level or district level policy would.
Okay, all right, good.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, nay? That motion carries, that's approved, and then we have the new diploma policy. I'll take a motion to approve on that. Is there a motion? I got a motion from Mr. Welling, Ms. Lee, a second. Any other discussion on the diploma? All those in favor say aye. Anybody opposed, nay? I know everybody's in favor of lunch, so we are moving through this. That is all of our business for today. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Welling. And Ms. Lee, y'all are on the ball today. All those in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed, nay? We are officially adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
A little bit good luck.